During a surveillance radar approach, or SRA as it is more commonly called, the pilot is given distances from touchdown, advisory altitude information, and azimuth instructions to enable him to make an approach to a particular runway. Approaches are normally carried out using QNH, although at military aerodromes in the UK, QFE is more often used. The following is an example of a typical surveillance radar approach. The aerodrome is Stephenville, the active runway is 26, and the touchdown elevation is 100 feet. The aircraft has been radar vectored to intercept the final approach track 8 miles from touchdown at 2,000 feet on the QNH. Note that the controller prompts the pilot to check certain items. However, controllers do not always do this, and it is the pilot's responsibility to ensure he is aware of the approach profile and the relevant minima.
Oxbow 345, this will be a surveillance radar approach terminating at half a mile from touchdown. Check your minima, step down fixes and missed approach point.
Oxbow 345.
Oxbow 345, turn right heading 265 for final approach.
Right, heading 265, Oxbow 345.
The range at which the final descent begins will depend on the altitude of the aircraft as it approaches the glide path, and the angle of the glide path. The normal angle is 3 degrees, which means that the aircraft will descend at about 300 feet per mile. Before playing the next bit of soundtrack, work out at what altitude the aircraft should be when it is 6.5 miles from touchdown. You will hear the answer shortly.
Oxbow 345, 8 miles from touchdown. Your descent will begin at 6.5 miles. Check wheels.
Oxbow 345.
If the pilot reports visual with the runway in the early stages of the approach, he will be asked if he wishes to continue the SRA. In the absence of such a report, aircraft will not normally be transferred to aerodrome control, i.e. the tower, until after they have completed the SRA approach and have landed.
Oxbow 345, 7 miles from touchdown. Report runway or approach lights in sight.
Oxbow 345.
Oxbow 345, after landing, contact Stephenville Tower on 118.5.
After landing, Stephenville Tower, 118.5. Oxbow 345.
Based on a rate of descent of 300 feet per mile, at 6.5 miles, the aircraft should be at an altitude of 2,050 feet. In this example, the controller will make an allowance for the fact that the aircraft is actually at 2,000 feet by telling the pilot to descend at slightly less than 6.5 miles.
Oxbow 345, 6.5 miles from touchdown. Commence descent now to maintain a 3-degree glide path.
Descending Oxbow 345.
Where an SRA terminates at 2 miles from touchdown, the distance from touchdown and advisory altitude checks are normally passed at 1 mile intervals. Where the SRA terminates at less than 2 miles, as in this example, Such checks are given at each half mile.
"6 miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,900 feet.
Oxbow 345.
Slightly left of track, turn right, heading 270.
Heading 270, Oxbow 345.
Five and a half miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,750 feet.
Oxbow 345.
Five miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,600 feet. Heading 270 is good.
Oxbow 345.
Four and a half miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,450 feet. Slightly right of track, turn left 3 degrees, heading 267.
Heading 267, Oxbow 345.
Four miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,300 feet. Do not reply to further instructions.
Note that up to this point, the pilot has replied to all transmissions. However, as previously mentioned, when an SRA terminates at less than 2 miles from touchdown, the pilot is not expected to reply once the aircraft is within 4 miles from touchdown. At this point, the controller's transmissions should not be interrupted for intervals of more than 5 seconds.
Three and a half miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,150 feet. Clear to land, runway 26. Surface wind 270 degrees, 10 knots. Three miles from touchdown, altitude should be 1,000 feet. Heading 267 is good. Two and a half miles from touchdown, altitude should be 850 feet. On track. Two miles from touchdown, altitude should be 700 feet. Check minimum descent altitude. One and a half miles from touchdown, altitude should be 550 feet. One mile from touchdown, altitude should be 400 feet. On track, half a mile from touchdown. Approach completed. Out.